More now on one of our top stories. With the Prime Minister rejecting Productivity Commission suggestions, jobs figures were also released today with some good news for the economy. Shadow Parliamentary Secretary for Defence Gabe Brotman and Liberal MP Tony Smith join me now live from Canberra and Melbourne respectively. Thank you both of you for being there. Tony Smith, can I just start by asking you about the looming sacking of Martin Parkinson? There were reports in Fairfax papers about the fact that your former boss, Peter Costello, as well as the former Prime Minister John Howard, disagreed with Tony Abbott's decision to go down that path. What's your view?
Oh, look, I think the Prime Minister outlined this pretty clearly today, that an incoming government's got a right to call its own shots. He made the point that Martin Parkinson is a very experienced and respected public servant, but with a change of government, he wanted a change in direction. Martin's, I know very well. I've got a high regard for him, and he's there doing a good job at the moment. But with an incoming government, this is not an unusual thing.
Well, it is unusual, though, in that Secretary for the Treasury role. I mean, when Peter Costello came to power with John Howard, half a dozen in the Night of the Long Knives, but not in that role. And in fact, over the last 100 years, never in that role. That's the part that's unprecedented, isn't it?
Well, look, that may be true, but as you rightly point out, I mean, with a change of government, there are often changes in personnel at the top of those departments. I concede I can't think of an example where it's happened with the Secretary of the Treasury, but that doesn't mean it should never happen.
All right, Gabe Brotman, I want to ask you about the news of the day. The jobs figures, 50,000 new jobs in the month of February alone. No adjustment in the unemployment rate at 6%, but doesn't this idea of a creation of 50,000 new jobs in 1 month alone put to bed the scare campaign that Labor's, in a sense, running off the back of the pending job losses in industries within this country that are facing significant transition, in a sense, out of the government's hands?
Well, I think that the figures today highlight the fact that the job market is softening, and they also highlight the fact that what the Abbott government's been in for 6 months. When it was elected, it promised to create 1 million jobs over 5 years. Now, by my calculation, that's 100,000 over the last 6 months. So that obviously hasn't happened. So it is cause for concern. And what's particular cause for concern too, particularly given this softening of the job market, is the fact that there were reports yesterday of the government loosening 457 visas and broadening those out, and the fact that numbers could be increased. Now, I think that when the job market is softening, opening up and loosening the arrangements for 457 visas and opening up the options for foreign workers is a concern.
Well, it's interesting, Tony Smith, that the government, or the Prime Minister rather, has said that 6% unemployment is too high. He might need to say that rhetorically as a Prime Minister, but in actuality, in historical terms, that is incredibly low as a number, isn't it?
Well, in Australia's past decades, you're absolutely right, Peter, but I think the point he's making is we have to be ambitious, and we can't be complacent at all. We've had unemployment much lower than that, and that is our ambition. So there was some strong job growth, as you pointed out earlier in your program, but we're not resting on our laurels, and we want to remove some of the barriers that are there for that are preventing an even better number. So I think he's quite right to say we're not satisfied with 6. That would be the worst thing we could do, and for us to look back and say, well, look back in the early 90s it was 10 and 11, and in the mid to late 90s it was sort of 9 or 8. Yes, in comparison to that it is better, but we've got to be ambitious.
Ms Brotman, I want to bring you back to...
Peter, just on that, yeah, look, it's all very well to be ambitious, but the issue is that the Abbott government doesn't have a jobs plan, and also they don't have any science or innovation plan or research plan. In fact, they don't even have a science minister, so it's all very well to hold out these ambitions, but what is the plan for jobs? What is the Abbott government's plan for jobs? What's the Abbott government's plan for innovation and science and research?
Well, let's wait for give them a chance. They haven't even put out their first budget yet.
Okay, well, yeah, they've got this. They've got the ambition.
You could help us by abolishing the carbon tax and the mining tax. That would be a good first step. They are two job-destroying taxes, and we've got Bill Shorten 2 days before the West Australian election trying to pretend he's got a different view on the mining tax. Why don't you just say on this program you'll abolish it?
Well, actually, on that issue of the mining tax, Gabe Rotman, I did want to ask you about that. We reported this yesterday here on PVO News Hour. It looked like a softening of the position coming from Bill Shorten. Is that the view of the opposition? Yes, you're going to block the repeal, but if unsuccessful, as you're likely to be when the new Senate takes its position after July 1, then there will be a change of thinking in the Labor ranks about what it supports via a resource rent tax of sorts?
Well, what Bill was saying yesterday was the fact that we are opposed to the changes that the Abbott government's made, and we've made that clear, or planning to make it, and we've made that clear. But what Bill was saying was that we are in conversations with industry and other stakeholders on the issue, and we'll continue to have those conversations over the next 2 years.
All right, final question for you, Tony Smith, if I can. The Productivity Commission report released today, a lot of work went into it, a lot of detail, 600 pages no less. Without even reading the report, the Prime Minister immediately rejects a cornerstone element of it. Your reaction?
Oh, well, I saw his comments with regard to one aspect, and I saw Jamie Briggs's words a bit earlier, and that was about sat navigation on cars, and I think he said it was a fairly novel approach. Look, with the Productivity Commission, they do a great job. Peter, we pay them for their purity, for their policy purity. It doesn't mean that the minute a report comes out, every single word has to be agreed to. And I think, as Jamie Briggs pointed out, there's a lot more to it than just that issue, which I'd have to agree with the Prime Minister is a fairly novel suggestion.
But just finally, Gabe Rotman, I mean, one of the things that your side of politics was criticised for during the previous Labor government was reacting too quickly to things. The report's released today, bang, straight away you've got the Prime Minister coming out and making an announcement about something that's been rejected. Aren't we all at a point, both sides of politics, where we should give our politicians a little bit more time to think about their answers before they move?
Yeah, I think it's a good point, actually, Peter, and I think that I really welcome the Productivity Commission report. I'm looking forward to having a closer read of it, and I welcome it because I was a former Deputy Chair of the Public Accounts and Audit Committee. I'm currently a member of the Public Accounts and Audit Committee, and I've had an enduring interest in public administration and governance and due diligence and due process. So I think that these reports are always worthwhile for governments and oppositions to consider, and I think that time should be taken for detailed consideration of those reports, and I'm looking forward to having a good read of it.
All right, Gabe Rotman and Tony Smith, thank you both of you for being there. Tony Smith, happy birthday. You outed me.
Thank you.
Just a few weeks ago. I might as well do the same for you.
That's all right. Just don't say my age.
Happy birthday, Tony.
All right.
Thank you,
Happy
Gabe.
birthday, Tony.
And I'll
Thanks,
see
both of
you next week.
Talk to you again soon.
See you next